Is there somebody that just rubbed you the wrong way? Like,
well, in Philly, it was the, and I don't want to like beat a dead horse with it because I actually feel bad at this point. The Ben Simmons thing, like that pissed me off because like, you know, guys are trying to make a living, right? And I came from Utah, like I signed like just a little over the minimum, and I'm like, oh, this is perfect. I'm a spot up shooter. This guy fucking drives the lane. Everybody collapses. He kicks out. Like, this is gonna be great for my career. Yeah. I signed a 2-year deal, like, and then he was like, I'm not playing, and I'm like, what the fuck? And then he was walking around the facility, you know, like you'd be like, what's up, man? Because they're like, you know, I'm trying to welcome him back in, you know, and he'd be like, and that's when I was like, fuck this dude. Like,
yeah,
if I get an opportunity to play against this dude, I'm gonna be an asshole. Like,
so we're now going into the 5th season of the max contract that was given to a prime Ben Simmons at the age of 24, given to him by an organization in the Philadelphia 76ers, who had fair enough reason in that point in time to have the expectation that he could be a strong piece in their championship aspirations. If you clicked on this video, I'm assuming you have some level of general knowledge on the whole soap opera that was between Ben Simmons and the Philadelphia 76ers a few years back, and when he initially received that $170 million max deal. Now, for a bit of context on how he ended up signing a max contract, a prime Ben Simmons in just 4 seasons with the Philadelphia 76ers was averaging a modest 16 points with 8 rebounds, 8 assists, and nearly 2 steals, putting him amongst the league leaders in steals per game consistently. He did miss his official rookie season his first year in the NBA due to a foot injury. Fortunately, came back very strong in his second year, winning a very controversial Rookie of the Year race in the following season. The man was 6'10", 240 pounds, but uniquely was still one of the fastest players in the league and was often recognized for being one of the better defenders and playmakers in the NBA. His resume before signing that deal with Philly had him sitting on 3 straight All-Star appearances, 2 All-Defensive First Team selections, an All-NBA Third Team selection in 2020, as well as that Rookie of the Year award that I mentioned earlier. Mind you, pre-Zion, Wemby, and Lonzo draft hype, Ben Simmons was a nigga that had motion since high school. And obviously not implying that the names that I mentioned didn't, but he was definitely amongst that group of draft prospects that had extreme media pressure on being the next generational talent to walk into the league. Nigga hadn't played a single NBA minute and was already drawing player comparisons to LeBron. I mean, don't get me wrong, the nigga was nice. He had the strength, speed, and athleticism in just high school, paired with a point guard level passing IQ, had him scouted as a generational prospect. He definitely won't be the first to last, but it is just crazy to think that not even 10 years later, with bro pushing almost 30, and we're rightfully questioning whether this man will even have a future in the NBA past this season. Meanwhile, LeBron is still playing at a high level at the age of 39 on the other hand. Since the blockbuster deal involving him and James Harden back in 2022, he's only played in 57 games in 3 seasons for the Brooklyn Nets, pulling bitches and cashing checks, as he has collected over $85 million in that time span, along with the side money he's potentially made off of the millions of followers he's gained on social media since being drafted, on top of his seemingly stronger interest in fashion, damn near being a part-time NBA player at this point. And although James Harden was undoubtedly the best player involved in the trade, at the time though, on paper initially, there was some potential for Ben Simmons to be a slightly better fit next to an elite shot-creating duo in Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. Mostly due to the fact that he added defense and size to a front court that they desperately needed, and on top of that, he was still given the ropes to be their primary playmaker and play to his strengths and transition. Prior to that same season starting, he would go on JJ Redick's podcast having somewhat of a redemption interview, reminiscing about when they were once teammates, explaining his POV on the situation in Philly, hinting at some development in his game due to finally being healthy, and adding some hype to his addition to the Nets being paired with Kyrie and KD with his skill set.
Are you going to shoot threes this season for the Nets?
Yeah, I need to. I need to just go out there and put some up.
Should just make a goal. I'm going to shoot 5 a game until they tell me to stop shooting fucking 23s a game.
Don't get me wrong, I love JJ's podcast, but you could just tell overall in this interview that it was very much structured in a way for Ben Simmons to be protected from negative narratives and to ease up the pressure that was going on around his name at this time. After a whole season of rehabilitation and working out, putting up those confident jump shots in those summer runs he loves to post on social media, in his debut season with the Nets, none of that confidence translated. Like, when is the last time you seen Ben Simmons attempt a sidestep jump shot? Like, the shit looked mad unusual, but clean at the same time. Like, sir, when was that in your bag? When was that your body? However, his first season in the Nets uniform. He had to regress his awareness off the ball, was scared to go to the free throw line, let alone look at the basket for a single jump shot attempt. And most of all, it just felt like he had lost his entire identity in his own role on offense. And while he upheld his reputation as a solid defender, it was safe to say that he had become a liability than someone that you could rely on. And we eventually witnessed a Ben Simmons who couldn't shoot the ball mentally regress into a player who wouldn't shoot the ball.
Just take a look at what the lineups could potentially look like. You put another big next to Ben, then you got to figure out what the spacing is around him. Then if you put a playmaker next to him, then you got to figure out what Ben looks like without the basketball. Then if you go small with Ben, then you got to figure out, can you rebound enough with him? All right, so the challenges are ahead of us.
As a result, his role on offense in Brooklyn was reduced to him being more of a role player as a screener and being an extremely passive defensive wing. This man averaged 7 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, shooting 44% from the free throw line, while on average attempting less than 2 free throws a game. To put his scoring production into perspective, Simmons averaged less points and field goals attempted per game than players such as Dorian Finney-Smith, Royce O'Neal, and even Seth Curry. Easily one of the worst regressions for an all-star caliber player under the age of 30. And mind you, the Brooklyn Nets had just traded James Edwards Harden Jr. for months to pull up averaging an underwhelming 6 points per game. Then eventually claimed that he wasn't supposed to play that season and that he was still in the recovery phases of a previous back surgery. And you would think with all that has happened, he has either learned his lesson, been humbled, or at least would stay quiet until he is somewhat close to that form that he is referring to. But nope, just last summer, bro would continue to dig himself in a deeper hole. He would go on to state that he is healthy and ready to dominate, and once again did the exact opposite, averaging a stat line of 6 points, 8 rebounds, and 5.5 assists, displaying the same tendencies that he showed in the previous season. Only difference is that he played not even half as many games. And due to Ben Simmons not living up to his full potential and the downward spiral of his confidence and the sense of direction within this organization, before the situation had a chance to get worse, before the trade deadline in 2023, the franchise would trade away their 2 stars in Kyrie and KD for future assets to start their rebuild and officially to pull the plug on their super team experiment.
Running, Irving. Simmons didn't even look at the basket, but that's a good decision to get it to KD.
In 2020, Ben Simmons would pass up on an opportunity to compete with his own national team in the Tokyo Olympics after slightly teasing his commitment to the roster, to eventually end up backing out in order to rehab and quote-unquote work on his game for the summer, a stage where the Australian team still managed to break their 65-year-old medal drought, only for 4 years later for their Australian star to be unavailable for the invite yet again for the same reasons. The Olympics is not the only stage that Ben Simmons would manage to duck, as back in 2022, once again dodging a series of important high-pressure games to disappoint yet another fan base by insinuating that he would be available for return in a first-round series against the Boston Celtics when the Nets were down 2-0 and hinting at a possible return for Game 4. If you watched the press conference, you could tell by Simmons' body language that he was highly uncertain and mildly nervous while answering questions, but seemingly acting confident that in the midst of a playoff series, that he would have a positive impact on a roster that he had not played a single game with since the James Harden trade.
Are you at the point where you're pretty much pain-free every day, but you're just trying to get up conditioning to the point where
so if you think about it, when you're injured, you have an injury like this, your whole leg is affected, so it's going to take time to loosen these muscles and get back on the floor, but it's day to day, so it's treatment every day, Pilates, it's workouts, and just stay on top of it.
And if you improve the way you've been improving, however that is, do you think Game 4 is reasonable to think that might be in play?
No, I think it's reasonable to think that, but it's day to day. I can't tell you, definitely Game 4, Game 3. If I could play right now, I'd be on the court, so it is what it is.
And guess who's betting on themselves coming into this next season to dominate once again? Look, as cool as it would be for a redemption story to come true for Ben Simmons, the truth of the matter is that nobody getting younger. Year by year, other organizations and owners peep his actions, and if you continue to establish a reputation for not really having the best work ethic, and not only that, but being young and regressing, Who the hell is going to want to acquire that? What team owner is going to be willing to pay an athlete millions if they don't know what they're getting as the product? And not to make it seem like the dude is any less human, but let's be real. Even if Ben ends up signing a vet minimum after this contract, what organization would feel fully confident in giving up their assets or in signing and retaining a 28-year-old athlete with reoccurring back problems and a tendency to quit or mentally fold under intense pressure? Shit, you tell me, because I don't know. And if Simmons refuses to get his act together, he will be blackballed by the league harder than Dwight Howard. And his trade value at this point is lower than Bradley Beal and Zach LaVine, and if you know, you know. Look, I don't know if Ben Simmons has a whole bunch of yes men in his camp, but they really need to be telling this dude that he needs to treat this upcoming season like his last. Because if he doesn't treat it that way, that will be the unfortunate truth. Ben Simmons was blessed with the IQ and physical tools to play basketball. However, it's your mental fortitude that separates you from competition and your work ethic that keeps you in the league. Your first chance is getting drafted. The NBA is a billion-dollar corporation, and any organization that drafts you is literally giving you the opportunity to play within their league and make millions off of your gifted craft. I understand not evolving into the superstar that everybody had anticipated or expected for you to be, but for you to have regressed as deeply as you did is remarkable, honestly, and not in a good way. Especially when you're at the age you're at, players start typically hitting their prime. Paired with the unwillingness to even shoot a basketball in a real game situation, when coaches, fans, teammates, even opposing teams are encouraging you to even make a single attempt, almost comes off as slightly ungrateful for the opportunity to play in the NBA and just a strong lack of self-awareness. Especially when there's been several times where even NBA vets or a few of Ben's past teammates will adjust certain areas and aspects of their game for the betterment of their team or for personal longevity of their career. The second chance was, despite these organizations not getting rid of you immediately on simply working on a fundamental jump shot in a game situation, Philly and Brooklyn both made an effort in accommodating for your weakness and giving you the support and teammates that would at least make that weakness look less apparent because they had decent faith in your development and skill set. As a result of relieving this pressure, you were provided a plethora of shooters, and once again being fortunate enough to play with some of the league's most elite shot creators during your tenure on both teams. Ben's last chance outside of getting that max deal from Philly was really just his whole stint with Brooklyn. Simmons had two separate opportunities to be an integral piece in the growth of the Brooklyn franchise, whether it was being a role player and an important part in a championship aspiring team when they had the duo of Kyrie and KD, and in the second opportunity, being given the chance for a fresh start, to still be young enough to suit the long-term plans of the Brooklyn Nets while developing his game amongst their rebuild alongside their other young promising core pieces in Nick Claxton and Cam Thomas, in addition with Cameron Johnson and Mikal Bridges, who had recently been acquired in that KD trade. Similar to the two scenarios he was given in his timeline with the Sixers, and has been out with the same lingering back issue time and time again. Let's end the video on this note. While it's still unclear whether Ben Simmons has finessed the NBA for a bag, or is just wholeheartedly telling the truth and is experiencing consistent severe back problems, which in that case back and knee problems are the worst injuries to have in sports because they do limit explosiveness, or whether underlying all the news is just an elaborate ruse for him to escape the societal pressure of forming a jump shot and all the media that came crashing on top of him because of that one mistake 3 years ago, we may never know. If there's anything that we do know or is becoming clear season after season, is that bro might be preparing for an early retirement. In all honesty, Ben Simmons, because of his age, could still have a chance to be playing in the NBA past this season, as there's winning teams that could use a tall, switchable forward that has exceptional playmaking abilities and can be a solid defender. Hopefully I don't sound like a broken record talking on some of the same talking points that most people have about Ben Simmons' career, but I do feel that the strong irony that lies in all of this is that if you take a look back in history and a glance at Ben Simmons' scouting report prior to being drafted, it all makes sense now. It's actually insanely wild how they foreseen his weaknesses, and even crazier seeing in real time how the cards played out. Even before the NBA, scouts had detected concerns on Ben Simmons' character, not only in his lack of competitiveness and inconsistent confidence, but along with his approach to the game and criticism. According to a scout on Sporting News, Australian players and coaches who have been around him don't speak about him in flattering terms, calling him the Yank to highlight how different he is compared to most of the players from that country, and perhaps highlight how much moving to the States at a young age and immersing himself in the AAU world has shaped him. Those who know him best say he needs things to revolve around him on and off the court, and that he's been often closed-minded to coaching or instruction. That being said, if you guys enjoyed the video, leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel if you new. You know it's Sorbo Hoops and we be litty in this section. Glad to be back, and I do want to serve as a reminder. Believe it or not, I used to be a pretty strong advocate for the redemption of Ben Simmons, giving him benefit of the doubt for his injury, and had some faith that he could at least return back to the player he was in Philadelphia once he got traded to Brooklyn. But unfortunately, shit happens, and on that note, y'all be easy.